I just watched the new movie Air. Is it any good? How many butter pumps will it get? Let's find out.
My baby likes.
Hello, my butter babies. So let's talk about Air. It's the new star-studded movie that is all about signing Michael Jordan to his initial contract with Nike. The film stars Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, who also directed, Jason Bateman, Marlon Wayans, Chris Messina, Chris Tucker, Matthew Marr, and Viola Davis. With so much talent in front of and behind the camera, what could go wrong? Not much, actually. This movie is really good. It's one of those mid-budget prestige films that are slowly becoming extinct at the box office. It's the very first movie of the year that has awards written all over it, and depending upon what Oscar bait is coming down the pipeline for the rest of the year, it may have decent chances. Remember, the Oscar darling Everything Everywhere All at Once came out around this same time last year and basically swept the Oscars. So we'll see. With awards-worthy performances from basically everyone in the cast, it has a good shot. Let's see what the rest of the year brings. So this is a mild spoiler alert. If you live on the planet Earth, you know what Air Jordans are, but you may not know the whole story behind how Nike got Michael Jordan to sign with them in the first place. This movie is very inside baseball, or should I say basketball. After watching this movie, you will know all the ins and outs of what it actually took to get Michael Jordan out of the hands of Adidas, which is where he was determined he was going to sign as a rookie. Matt Damon stars as Sonny Vaccaro, a high school basketball talent scout that was hired by Nike to help revive its basketball division. In 1984, the basketball division of Nike was about to be shuttered. At the time, they only held about 17% of the market share of basketball shoes sold worldwide. At the time, Nike was best known for their running shoes. Its basketball division was floundering. What I loved about Michael Damon's performance, what I loved about Matt Damon's performance here is he wasn't afraid of letting Sonny Vaccaro be an absolute raging asshole. Because that's what he is for most of the film. Yes, ultimately he's right when he convinces Nike to throw their entire budget behind a rookie named Michael Jordan instead of spreading it out between 3 less expensive draft picks. But the way Sonny carries himself throughout the film, it's really hard to root for the guy because he's so unlikable. But that unlikability actually works in Matt Damon's favor in the end. It makes Sonny the second most compelling person in the film. We'll get to Viola Davis in a minute. Jason Bateman plays Rob Strasser, the marketing director of Nike at the time. Jason works closest with Matt Damon throughout the film as they, along with the designer of the original Air Jordan, Pete Moore, played here by Michael Mayer, who, by the way, Pete Moore also designed the Air Jordan silhouette that is on all the Air Jordans that came out after Air Jordan's version 1.0. So all three of them set about designing the perfect shoe and the perfect presentation to get Michael signed to Nike. Rob is Sonny's closest ally in the company, but has his own reservation about Sonny's pick. He and Sonny go back and forth several times throughout the course of the film, but ultimately he has Sonny's back. By the third act in the film, Sonny's been given the ultimatum that if he doesn't sign Michael, the entire basketball division will be shut down. Sonny blindly barrels forward with no regard to how his actions will affect everyone around him and the basketball division as a whole. At this point, Jason has an Oscar caliber monologue where he checks Matt for his arrogance and for his disregard of everyone else but himself. It is literally an acting chef's kiss. Perfection. Jason Bateman has perfected the everyman character that men like Tom Hanks and Jimmy Stewart are famous for. And in this movie, he's just a guy trying his best to do his job so he can still be there for his daughter who he only gets to see once a week. You genuinely feel for this everyman kind of a guy that Jason plays. He is absolutely wonderful in this role. But if Jason is wonderful in this role, Chris Messina absolutely kills it as David Falk, Michael Jordan's agent in the film. And actually, David Falk was Michael Jordan's agent throughout his entire career. So all of Chris's scenes, and there are a number of them, except for two, are him on the phone with Sonny. And in most of them, he's literally screaming his head off at Sonny for something Sonny has done that Sonny shouldn't have done. He's absolutely brilliant in this movie, and even though most of the time he's yelling, there are moments when he brings it down just a smidge and you get to see the layers of his character come through. In my mind, Chris Messina is definitely a front runner for supporting actor nods when award season rolls through, regardless of what the rest of this year brings. Before we get to the goddess, whom us mere mortals must refer to as Viola Davis, I absolutely must give a shout out to the glow up Marlon Wayans' career has taken. He has begun to flex those dramatic chops more and more and more, and he's bringing it in every dramatic role he's been cast in. His role in this movie is small. He has all of one scene in this movie. He plays George Raveling, who was the assistant coach for the 1984 Olympic basketball team, which Michael Jordan played in and played guard. In the movie, he talks to Sonny about Michael and basically gives his blessing and support to court Michael. And he also says that he will talk to Michael himself about signing with Nike. Here's a Black History trivia moment that plays out in the movie. George Raveling, who is an actual real person, provided security for Martin Luther King during the March on Washington. After Dr. King gave his iconic I Have a Dream speech, Raveling asked if he could have that speech. And just like that, Martin just handed it over to him. In the following decades, George was offered upwards of $3 million for that speech, and he declined. Instead, in 2021, he gave it to Villanova University. Could you imagine in that iconic moment after Dr. King gave his speech, just casually asking for it, and then have Dr. King just casually give it to you without a second thought, and then holding on to it for decades? The Black history of that typewritten speech, could you imagine? Yes, it belongs in a museum, and I'm glad he gave it over to Villanova University for safekeeping. Anyway, back to Marlon. He is having an incredible glow up as a dramatic actor. Even though he's only in one scene in this movie, I was riveted by his performance. There are acting awards in his future for sure. Now, let's talk about the divine, the delicious, the deserving of all the things queen we humbly call Viola Davis. Viola plays Michael Jordan's mother, Dolores Jordan. From the research I did on this movie, it seems one of the things Michael insisted upon before signing off on this movie was that Viola Davis play his mother, which, duh. Who else is going to play his mother except for Viola Davis? Of course he insisted upon that, because if I were in his shoes, I would insist upon the same thing. Not only that, but he insisted her real life influence on him, we're talking about his mother now, and the Nike contract negotiations play out on screen. Dolores was in control. So it really is true that Dolores insisted Michael not only get paid $500,000 per year for 5 years as a base salary from Nike, but also that he would receive 25% of the royalties from every shoe sold in his likeness. It's very important to note that this was a first of its kind of a contract, and it literally revolutionized the way athletes were paid for their endorsements. When Viola as Dolores called up Sonny and said Michael would be happy to sign with Nike, but only under the terms she stated, I said out loud in the theater, "You damn right." Sonny and Dolores have a little back and forth, but it is clear from the very beginning Dolores is in control of this negotiation. Viola played Dolores with such a quiet, calm, and unassuming strength that could never be denied. I wanted to scream out, "Bad bitch," but I caught myself before I did. Viola Davis could read the phone book and bring me to tears, because she's just that good and deserves every last letter of the EGOT she has earned. Now, the way the Oscars like to play with black folk, especially black women, shout out to the twice robbed Angela Bassett. It would be shocking if Viola Davis were nominated for an Oscar for this role. That notwithstanding, she deserves. Now let's talk about Ben Affleck. He stars as the CEO of Nike, Phil Knight. He also is the director of the film. Honestly, he should have chosen one or the other. I get why he wanted to star in this film. Most of his scenes are with his good friend Matt Damon. So why wouldn't he want to play with Matt Damon? They're good on screen together. They've got chemistry. However, because he did double duty on this film, I think it suffered a little bit from a directorial standpoint. Now, let me be clear here. The direction is not awful. Not by a long shot. But it's also not dynamic at all. Most of the scenes were shot kind of flat, but because the actors in the movie are pretty much all next level, they elevate the story in a way that allows a little bit of forgiveness in the direction. The actors suck you into the story, but in the end, any actor could have played Phil Knight. It didn't have to be Ben Affleck. And even though he's used to directing himself, in this case his double duty sort of hurt the film. He should have stayed behind the camera. This movie is a talkie. Because of that, there is not a lot of action in this movie, and there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, it's kind of refreshing to have something different rather than having yet another loud, bombastic, over-the-top blockbuster that seems to come out every other week. There are a few archival videos of Michael playing basketball that are interspersed and sprinkled at appropriate moments throughout the film. But those are very fleeting moments, and they're numbered few in the movie. So if you're looking for an exciting, heart-pounding trip down memory lane watching Michael win all of the NBA titles, you might be a little disappointed. But if you've ever been curious about how Michael and Nike came together to create a shoe line that forever revolutionized the shoe game, this is the movie to see. So how many butter pumps am I going to give Air? 4 butter pumps. Mm-hmm. 4. It would have been 5, but it lost a pump for the flat direction, unfortunately. But still, much like Michael Jordan, this movie is a winner, baby. Go see it. So now I turn it over to you, my beautiful butter babies. Have you seen Air? If so, what did you think? How many butter pumps would you give it? I want to hear all about it in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching and subscribing, my beautiful butter babies. I'll see you in the next one.